All right, hi guys. So as you know, I am out again today for professional development. So we started with the writing and solving one-step inequality problems, but we didn't get finished with it. So I'm going to kind of recap a little bit about what we talked about yesterday, and then we'll go a little bit further with it. And then you'll also have a multiplying and dividing one. So, just a quick refresher. We talked about the words less than, greater than, less than or equal to, or greater than or equal to. We talked about arithmetic examples that I just highlighted here. We talked about algebraic examples that I just highlighted here. We talked about the different symbols. And we also talked about the graphing symbols because we have to graph it as well. All right, so let's go ahead and get rocking and rolling with it. So to solve one-step inequalities, we need to solve them just like equations. The big difference is that you must include the variable, the inequality symbol, and the solution in your answer. It's vital that you do that. All right, so I know we did example number one and we did example number two, but I'm going to go ahead and do those anyways, redo those anyways. So we're going to solve x plus 3 is greater than 10. So in order to do that, I see on the side with the variable that we're adding 3 to it. So that means we need to do the inverse. So we're going to subtract 3 from both sides. When we do that, of course, that leaves us with just x on the left. And then greater than, and 10 minus 3 gives us 7. When I say you have to include the variable, the inequality symbol, and the solution in your answer, this is what I'm talking about. You have to have all three parts in order for it to be correct. If you're missing any of it, it's going to be wrong. All right, so we talked about graphing it. We talked about how the fact that it was greater than, just a greater than symbol. So we have to use an open circle at 7. So I'm going to draw an open circle at 7. And then we look at the variable and compare that to the solution. We look at the direction that the inequality symbol is opening to. Remember that it opens to the bigger value. So looking at this, since the inequality symbol is opening towards the variable, it means the variable is bigger than the solution, bigger than 7. So that means I'm going to shade off to the right of my circle. Don't forget you need to put, and that's a terrible looking arrow, but don't forget you need to put your arrow. All right, moving on down to number 2. So looking at what's going on with the variable, I see that a positive 6 is being added to h. Well, I need to get, since that's out in front of the h, I need to think about what do I need to add to positive 6 to get me 0. Well, that's going to be negative 6. Or in other words, I'm going to subtract 6. So subtract 6 from both sides. My 6's cancel out, leaving me with just h on the left-hand side. Bring down my inequality symbol. This time it is less than or equal to, and negative 9 minus 6, or think about negative 9 plus negative 6, same signs, add them together. So that means it's 15, and since they're both negative, then my answer's negative. Going over to the graph, I'm going to put my circle at 15, but I notice my inequality is less than or equal to, which means I have to put a closed circle. So I'm going to do the best I can to really shade it in there. That looks pretty good. All right, now I'm going to go back and I see that the inequality symbol is opening towards the number. So what that means is the number is bigger than the variable. The variable is smaller than the solution. So that means I'm going to shade to the left. Again, don't forget to put your arrow, so that looks much better. All right, looking at this one, I have negative 6 is greater than or equal to n minus 5. A lot of teachers will say just kind of reverse it. I don't recommend that at all because that's just one more thing that could go wrong. So we'll just deal with it the way that it is, and I'll talk you through it. So I see on the side with the variable, I have n minus 5. In order to get rid of that 5, I'm going to add 5 to both sides. So that's my strategy, add 5 to both sides. Okay, so -6 plus 5, different signs, subtract. Larger absolute value comes from the negative, so my solution is -1. Bring down my inequality symbol, and then, of course, my 5's cancel out, leaving me with just n. There's my solution. Now, when I need to go and put a dot or a circle at -1, since it's greater than or equal to, that means I'm going to put a closed circle. Ugh, that looks terrible. Well, that's the best I can do at this point. All right, now looking at n, remember the inequality symbol opens up towards the bigger value. I see it's opening up to the number -1, which means the n is smaller than the solution, which means I'm going to shade to the left. Another thing that is really common is teachers have talked about how in this inequality symbol, you see that the inequality symbol is pointing to the right, so you're going to shade to the right. The inequality symbol in this one is pointing to the left, so you're going to shade to the left. And that does work for these problems when the variable is on the left-hand side, but when the variable is on the right-hand side, that doesn't work. So that's why I always teach, look at the way that it's opening. If it's opening towards the number, then the variable's smaller. We're going to shade to the left. If the variable is bigger, we're going to shade to the right. If the variable is smaller, we're going to shade to the left. If the variable is bigger, we're going to shade to the right. I tend to think of this as bristle, BRSL, bigger right, smaller left. You're welcome to use it if that works for you. If it doesn't, you can come up with another way that works good for you. All right, so moving on down to number 4. I have x minus 2.3 is greater than or equal to -8.5. So that means I'm going to add 2.3 to both sides. I know that doesn't really look like a plus, but plus 2.3. 2.3's cancel out, leaves me with x is greater than or equal to, well, let's see, different signs. That means I'm going to subtract. So 5 minus 3 is 2, and 8 minus 2 is 6. Large absolute value comes from the negative. So there we go. Since it's greater than or equal to, I'm going to use a closed circle. Closed circle at -6.2. Now I see that the variable, or that the inequality is opening towards the x, which means the variable is bigger. Think of bristle, bigger right. I'm going to shade to the right. All right, writing one-step inequalities. So here are a few phrases that are going to kind of help you think about what kind of inequality symbol you're going to need. So Dylan can spend at most $18 to ride go-karts and play games at the state fair. Suppose the go-karts cost $5.50. Write and solve an inequality to determine the amount Dylan can spend on games if he rides go-karts once. So thinking about what all goes into that, you've got your total, and then what goes into that is the amount he spends on go-karts and the amount he spends on games. Now he's only going to the go-karts once, and he wants to know how much of that money can he spend, how much of the rest of the money can he spend on games. So that would be, let's write a let statement. Let G equal the amount of games, the cost of games. So G plus the cost of the go-karts, which is $5.50. And keep in mind he can spend at most. So I'm going to look up here for at most. You know what? There it is at most. So that means I'm going to use less than or equal to $18. There's my equation, or my inequality. To solve that, then I'm going to subtract 550 from both sides, which gives me G is less than or equal to, let's see, that would be $12.50. So what that means is he can spend up to $12.50 on games, but he can't spend any more because he doesn't have any more money than that. So there we go. All right, looking at number 6, Caleb owns two types of dogs. The difference in height of his Yorkshire Terrier and his Great Dane is at least 25 inches. Caleb's Yorkshire Terrier has a height of 6 1/4 inches. Write and solve an inequality to determine the possible height of the Great Dane. All right. So the difference in the height of the Yorkshire Terrier and the Great Dane is at least 25 inches. So think about it. That would be the height of the Great Dane, since we know the Great Dane is bigger, minus the height of the Yorkshire Terrier is at least, let's see, let's look up here. Here's at least. So we're going to use a greater than or equal to symbol, the difference, which is 25. So let's just use G for Great Dane minus 6 1/4 is greater than or equal to 25. Well, then to solve that, we're going to add 6 1/4 to both sides. I'm going to have to bring it over to here. So my solution is the height of the Great Dane is greater than or equal to 31 1/4 inches. Okay? I know it's going to take a little practice with those word problems, but you're going to get it. All right? All right. Catch you in the next video.